And now, it's time for a Star Trek story. You know, Aaron, we've been watching Star Trek on this podcast. Off and on. And, you know, one thing Star Trek likes to do is comment on the human condition.
One of the things it does best, I'd say.
Yeah. Definitely like Human Condition, the TV show.
Star Trek's forte.
So there are lots of questions, lots of human condition questions that Star Trek likes to tackle over time that it keeps coming back to. One of the ones it loves to come back to is war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yes, war. So, Aaron, is war an inescapable fact of human existence?
Probably. It's so revolting.
but probably.
I mean, we evolved from warrior primate cultures, right? From everything we can observe.
Yeah.
Like how those species interact with each other. They're just territorial and warlike, and they take each other on. I think that's just part of our DNA. It's like, hey, you're coming into my space a little too much. I'm going to poke you with a stick to get you back.
That's too bad, because, you know, we also descend from, like, sex-crazed primates. It's too bad we can't lean a little bit more into
That part.
that part of the DNA.
The fresh figs and orgies. Evolution.
Okay, probably. Yeah, it's hard to disagree or...
Yeah, it's hard to think that this timeline of humanity would evolve into like a Star Trek culture, like a Starfleet culture. We'd be much more like the Klingons or the Romulans.
Romulans.
Yeah.
I think we've even said on this podcast, I think it was when we were talking about the neutral zone, it seems like that we would end up being a lot like the Romulans.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's see what Star Trek has to say as we watch Star Trek on today's episode of Star Trek Stories. Yay! This is episode 53, Battle Lines. I am your belligerent host, Jaron Hatch, and I'm joined here by my bloodthirsty co-host, Aaron Cole. Hello, Aaron. Oh, boy. Yes, we are inching ever forward with our look at Deep Space Nine and the end of TNG. Last time we watched Tapestry, where once again our good friends Q and Jake were on the show to talk about how past experiences shape the people we become. Always fun when we have Jake and Q on with us. Today, however, we have a brand new friend with us. Sitting in the captain's chair, we have the very lovely Claire Montgomery with us today. Hello, Claire.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We were talking a little bit before we started. It's like there's been a few Deep Space Nine people I've been saving for this section of the podcast, and it's like getting all my Deep Space Nine peeps. So welcome aboard. It's good to have you. We know each other through my brother and roommate Tanner.
Roommate and brother.
What did I say? Brother and roommate?
You did.
Yeah, it's roommate and brother.
Right.
Yes. You are both part of the same D&D group.
Yes, that's right. We've been playing with the same Dungeons and Dragons group for about 3 years now.
Wow. Did you guys? I don't know if I know. Did you guys meet through D&D?
No, we used to work together. Most of the people in this D&D group, we started as working together, and then when the company we were all working for essentially went under, we decided to keep hanging out through playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's cool.
Hold together.
The bonds were strong enough.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, God, that's how I feel like that's... Some of my work buddies have definitely lasted over the years. I think for us it was college. After college imploded for a lot of us. Hold together. Yeah, so I know you play D&D. I also know you're a gamer, like a video gamer. I always like talking with people about their particular nerddoms. It comes in so many different flavors. Would you consider yourself more, because you're a D&D, you're a video gamer, are you more of like the interactive medium kind of nerd? Are you kind of someone who likes to really like engage with like worlds, or I don't know, how would you kind of define yourself?
I think I have got a lot of different hobbies that would fall in the nerd space. There's the interactive stuff like Dungeons and Dragons and video games. But, I also enjoy Star Trek. I'm also in on the anime and manga side a little bit. So right now I'm playing a lot of old school RuneScape.
Nice.
So it's just sort of whatever is interesting to me at the time.
RuneScape. Are you doing a lot of trading? Or what are you doing in RuneScape?
I'm trying to get my quest cape, so I'm just going through, leveling up my skills, and trying to complete all the quests.
I have to ask, anytime someone brings up anime, I'm still like an anime noob, and I recently finished Attack on Titan, which I really loved. And I always said, once I finished it, at some point I'll start another one, and now I'm collecting opinions. As an anime noob who's only watched Attack on Titan, what should I watch next?
Cowboy Bebop.
Okay, Cowboy Bebop.
That's a good choice.
That one, I feel like that one definitely comes up a lot. Also, what is it? Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Yeah.
Is that one? And also Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes.
I think those are the three that come up the most frequently. I think Cowboy Bebop comes up the most. All right.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, because Evangelion is a lot weirder than Cowboy Bebop, so you kind of have to be prepared before you go into that. And Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's already is over 100 episodes. So Cowboy Bebop is short, it's awesome, and it's very low on the scale of anime bullshit. Which is an important metric, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Too much anime bullshit takes me right out of it, and I can't do it anymore.
Too much, yeah.
Attack on Titan's pushing it.
How does any of this work?
There's so much triumphant yelling.
All right, Cowboy Bebop. Maybe it'll be Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, so when it comes to Star Trek in particular, I would say you're fairly hardcore, if not full-on hardcore. I would say more than casual from all conversations I've had with you. Definitely more than casual. So, but I don't think I've ever talked about like, where does Star Trek start with you? We always like to ask people on Star Trek stories, what's your Star Trek story? Claire, what's your Star Trek story?
So my Star Trek story started with, I got interested in Star Trek in high school. I started watching the original series, and I didn't like it, and I stopped watching.
Yep.
And then a couple years later, I started watching The Next Generation, and I didn't like it, and I stopped watching after a couple of episodes. But then, eventually, one of my friends who's really into Star Trek named Aaron, I don't know if you know Aaron, but...
I've heard of him.
Yeah. Very into Star Trek. So what I decided to do to make it more interesting, even if I didn't like the individual episodes, I started watching TNG again. And after I watched an episode, I just write what I thought about it and then just send it over via Discord. And so it went from me just being flabbergasted at the first two-parter of TNG, which is just bizarre in so many ways, to eventually liking it more and more. And then at some point I was hooked, finished TNG, watched Deep Space Nine, and at that point I was a full-on Star Trek fan.
So Deep Space Nine is the one that made you like a full-on dedicated fan. I mean, we're going to watch Deep Space Nine here in a second, so we won't go too much into it, but real briefly, what about Deep Space Nine in particular spoke to you that kind of like, okay, I'm in?
It was, first of all, the characters. I love the characters in Deep Space Nine. I love Dr. Bashir and Garrick and Quark and Commander Sisko, Captain Sisko probably by the episode we're watching. I'm not quite sure when. No, we're still right at the beginning.
Early days.
This is Commander Sisko days.
Okay, Commander Sisko. And then the other thing I liked is that I like when the Star Trek episodes try to be about something. I love the fun episodes, but the ones where they try to be about something are really good. And Deep Space Nine, I think, does that better than most of them. I think the distinction I would make is in TNG, it always felt like, on like an intellectual or academic level, this thing is bad and here's why you should think it's bad and not do it. Where Deep Space Nine is a lot more feels like it comes from a place of like, this is important that needs to be said.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more, or a lot less black and white situations in DS9 than there are in the episodic TNG episodes, I would say.
Switching gears a little before we get into the actual episode, just going back to the question we asked at the beginning, and Deep Space Nine is a very appropriate show to talk about war. Spoilers for those who haven't watched it before, but what do you think, Claire? Is war an inescapable fact of human existence?
I think I'll disagree with both of you and say that I don't think that it is. I think that while, yes, we sort of do have this past of, violence and aggression, sort of a lot of human history is just coming up with more clever ways to organize and work together in ways that allow us to avoid just having to solve our problems with gratuitous violence, whether it's the institution of legal systems, whether it's social ways of just learning to talk with each other and empathize, resolving things diplomatically, are all things that have sort of helped in that direction. And while we're definitely not there yet, and maybe we won't get there, I don't see any reason why it's impossible that we could come up with a sort of set of effective means of resolving our disputes and conflicts that don't rely on war at some point in the future.
Fingers crossed, everyone. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but hopefully someday, somewhere.
Brian Stokes Mitchell.
Well, let's see if Star Trek helps us figure out if war is inescapable or not. Yes, we are watching Battle Lines today. This premiered April 25th, 1993. This is the 12th episode produced for the first season, firmly in the back half of this inaugural season. Yeah, so last time we had a little TNG detour, but now we're back to DS9. We're still in the very early days. The show's got a few under its belt, though, at this point. So I think this would be a good barometer for us to kind of see where the show is at this point. Maybe like what's working, what's not working as much. Star Trek's always been famous or infamous for always taking a bit of time to kind of figure itself out. Some shows not as much, but first seasons are always famous for like they're not as good as the other seasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we can also kind of, as we're watching this, also keep in the back of our minds just some of the challenges involved with figuring out a new Star Trek show. Claire, I think I brought you on for this because I also, if I recall from New Year's, you were like, that first season of Deep Space Nine, it's not the best. I'm like, I'm getting Claire to come talk about season 1 of Deep Space Nine.
It's a Star Trek tradition to have a pretty underwhelming first season.
Mixed bag, yeah.
I'm pretty sure Strange New Worlds is the only one that managed to have just a solidly great with no qualifications first season. And there's definitely good stuff in the first season of Deep Space Nine, but it doesn't quite get there consistently until later on.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds kind of did the opposite thing. They had a MEV a second season, even though they tried to go bigger.
Yeah,
let's say.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, very strange.
New Worlds.
Yeah,
Very strange.
You might say
Paramount Plus.
All right. For those of you at home who are going to watch along with us, this is your invitation to watch along. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is streaming on Paramount Plus. You can find it by bringing up Season 1, Episode 13, and we will be back after we watch Battle Lines.
You can't bury it, Kira.
What?
Do you recognize yourself in these people?
Me? Oh, not at all. They're content to die. I've always fought to stay alive. Oh. I don't want you to have the wrong impression of me, Opaka.
Just what impression do you think I have?
Did I enjoy any of this? I don't enjoy fighting. Yes, I've fought my entire life, but for a good cause, for our freedom, our independence. And it was brutal and ugly and but that's over for me now. That's not who I am. I don't want you to think that I am this violent person without a soul, without a conscience. That is not who I am.
All right, we just got done watching Battle Lines. In case you have never seen this before, didn't watch it with us. So basically what happens in this one is they're having just another lovely day on Deep Space Nine when Kai Opaka, the Bajoran space pope, shows up unannounced on the station. They give her a nice little tour of the station, and then she has a request to travel through the wormhole, which is, of course, where the Bajoran gods, the prophets, live. They take her on a trip through the wormhole, and then when they're in the Gamma Quadrant, they pick up like a little signal that they go investigate. They find this moon covered with satellites. These satellites basically shoot down the runabout. The runabout crashes, and basically they find they have crashed on a penal colony, like a prison planet, where there's two sides, the Ennis and the Null Ennis, that are locked in perpetual combat with each other. And they learn that on this planet, no one actually dies. Like their leaders centuries ago, like gave them these little nanobots that makes them never die and made them lock in perpetual combat as like a lesson to their other citizens to like stop the fighting, I guess. And during all this, Kai Opaka actually dies in the crash, but these little nanites bring her to life. Cisco tries to negotiate a ceasefire, promising they'll rescue everyone, but can't get through to anyone. Eventually, they basically peace out. They learn that they actually can't really help these people, that if anyone actually leaves the planet, they'll die. And that goes for Kaiopaka, but she actually says this is where she's destined to end up. And the episode leaves with everyone piecing out, leaving Kaiopaka by herself to try to negotiate a peace between these two parties. Ooh. We always start with initial thoughts. Claire, initial thoughts coming on after Battle Lines.
I did not remember this episode at all from when I watched it. But I liked it a lot more than I thought it would. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think there's a lot of interesting things that it's trying to say.
I think we even said during the podcast or while we were watching, it's always fun to. There's so many Star Trek episodes. So, and what did you say? The Gandalf. I have no memory.
I had no memory of this episode.
All right. A season 1 episode that you liked. Well, our job here is done. Good night, everyone.
Season 1's a masterpiece. Perfect.
Best thing ever. All right. Aaron, initial thoughts coming on off of Battle Lines.
I always leave the show remembering that the Kai dies, and technically she does, but she's still alive in the Trek lore, just working on them.
Yeah.
Trying to heal the wounds of the Null Ennis and the Ennis.
Yeah, it's kind of the show kind of treats it that Kaiopaka died, but yeah, like you say, she's still
back there.
She's still out there this whole time. I do believe we in one episode do see her again in a orb vision that Cisco has, but that's it for her.
That's their
otherwise we don't see her again.
Pause crossing.
Wow. Yeah, wild wacky stuff this episode. I do feel like this is season 1, like we kind of talked about, definitely has a reputation for it's okay, it's not the best. It might be better than some Star Trek first seasons. I would definitely say though this is definitely one of the better ones of the season. Still really watchable. It's hard not to get invested and sucked in on some level. It's such a horrible concept. You're like, oh God. Yeah, so I think we just want to start with that. So the whole big A story is this whole conflict of people, the perpetual war with the Ennis and the Null Ennis. How do we feel about this as a concept, and also how do we feel like they did this as a story?
It's fun because it's kind of like that really famous sci-fi short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, where there's this computer just torturing the humans for seemingly no reason and they can't die. Only instead of a computer, it's just the humans doing it to each other.
I don't think I've ever read that story. Who wrote it? Do you know?
I don't remember who wrote it.
I'll have to look that. Interesting. Yeah.
It's the ultimate concept for a augmented reality shooter video game. Minus the horrible immortality.
Just because so many video games are violence and shooting, but there's no real stakes or consequences because it's all just a game.
Right. What if you could actually experience death? It's wild. But then you come back and then leave and then go home to your normal life. That might be a little much. It's coming though.
It's interesting. And that's actually an interesting kind of observation. It's kind of like a video game. I had not thought about this, but what they're experiencing is, it's not normal warfare. It almost feels like a game because even how they treat it, it's they don't really care. They're just kind of casual about it, strolling up to each other's bases and firing.
Well, there's even
spawn camping.
There's even the part where the leader of the Innes is telling them, yeah, we did tactics and we were like trying to defend positions, all that. And at some point, we just kind of gave up on all that.
Right. That's what happens when there's no endgame rewards or battle passes, stuff like that. Then there's no reason to keep shooting the pew-pews, right? But we're just going to anyway for the shreds of dopamine.
It's also kind of horrifying just to think about getting to a point where, because, you know, it's not that they're invulnerable, you know, like things are just bouncing off them. Like they actually get sliced up and die and you see them in pain, but then just eventually they just kind of like, just kind of wake up and kind of brush it off. It's like getting to a point where like you're getting sliced up and dying, but like you're just so numb to it now that you don't care. Like, oh my God, like how horrible.
The bots don't seem perfect either. Like they're still holding on to wounds.
Right.
They're taking over time.
Does it cure wounds? Does it just bring them back to life? Like what? Because they all got like scar, like the main guy, his whole face, he's like Two-Face over there. So it's like, it just brings you back to life. Is that all it does?
That sucks.
Yeah, it's a little unclear exactly the degree to which they work.
Right.
I guess they repair anything that would kill you, but anything less than that, they just kind of leave.
Just not the flesh wounds. Yeah, I feel like on some level there has to be like some healing, because you feel like if this had been going on for centuries, just over time, like your bones would break, like your body just wouldn't function anymore. So it seems to like cure it enough.
Well, right. It fits with the idea that the design wasn't to make them immortal in such a way that they're comfortable, just such that they can always perpetuate their fighting, so that the only way they can stop fighting is if they choose to. Seems to be the intent of the punishment here.
And how do you spend your time on that planet? You're the only one that's not fighting and everyone else is fighting.
Yeah. You know, that kind of brings up a question that, you know, because like Kyle Paka has a line where she's like, you know, all they know how to do is die. And the episode kind of has this looking at them from this kind of very tragic, this like, they can't end the cycle of the tragedy of not being able to end the cycle of violence kind of thing is kind of what. But I wonder, like, if you really were in a situation where you just kept fighting, like, there's some part of me, it's like, even if there was all this hate, like, I can't help but wonder if just because this is happening for so long that you just would, both sides would get to a point where it's like, fuck it, I don't care, like, enough of this. Just like this, the conflict would cease on its own, just because it's like they know this would never end. It's like, would the hate keep going that strong for so long if there were no stakes anymore? I'm curious, what do you guys think? Like, does this feel realistic that it keeps going this long, or do you feel like there would be a point where it's like they're just like, enough? What do you think?
I think that they could get to the point where, you know, they say is enough, but I don't think it can actually happen just from them realizing there's no stakes and it's pointless. Because in order to say, you know, even though we're not going to win, because there is no winning in this kind of war, to say we're going to stop fighting means having to accept that all of the fighting, all of the brutality that you've already done wasn't justified. That and so you sort of need a different outlook on what the point of sort of living is, which I think is why Kaiopaka stays. I think you even see it to an extent in our real world, how you have some people who, even though the fighting is over, who are just like still stuck in the mindset of the Cold War, where even though the conflict has ended, they can't get past needing to fight either the communists or Russia or whatever it is. I'll just set aside the current conflict involving Russia. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. But, you know, I think some of us are familiar with the kind of people who the Cold War never ended for them.
Or even like going back further, like the American Civil War, there are still parts of the country where they're just like, I'm holding on. Or I'm sure if you go to France or Germany, you'll still find some people like those fucking French, those fucking Germans, like just these long lasting.
The British and the French seem to have, I was just going to say, they seem to have become more frenemies than actual rivals.
Yeah.
Rival nations. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all right. I'm looking at you over there.
We'd like to vacation in your spots. Likewise.
Yeah, it is an interesting point that you bring up. It's almost like this idea of like they just literally don't know how there's just there. It's been happening for so long. That's literally that, like, that's all they can really conceive of in a way. And also just this idea of like, it's all meaning seems to be tied up in this conflict. And so like, while maybe like, so maybe it is that this for them, the stakes aren't non-existent. They are super high because it's this idea of if one of us can win it, it's like the ultimate victory. And that's what they're latching on to.
Right. You would need to show them something beyond that planet, I think, even more than the Kai can like do as one person on that little moon. Like you'd have to show them like the possibility of death outside of war, or like a better life somehow. But it would have to be away from that place. I don't know. I don't think the healing could happen there.
I mean, it's interesting because even just their arrival, it doesn't seem like these two parties have had any kind of like conversation or talking with each other in a long time. And even though it doesn't go anywhere, it seems like just the fact that Cisco was able to get them to talk for a second seems to be a pretty substantial like change. So I don't know, maybe it is literally just a different perspective coming in, helps them kind of see it in a different way.
One of the things I thought was the most interesting about this episode, and why I think I appreciated it more this time than when I'd initially watched it, is now having seen all of Deep Space Nine and looking back, especially the conversation Kira has with Kai Opaka about sort of her own still like feeling this tendency toward violence in herself as a result of, the brutal occupation of Bajor. It sort of sets up in a way, even though we don't know the history of the Innis and the Nor Innis, and while we have this perspective of obviously the Cardassians being the bad guys in the Bajoran occupation, I think we don't hear about the origin of the conflict between the Innis and the Nor Innis because it doesn't matter. The guy even says it doesn't matter. And so in a sense, what's happening to them is kind of the stakes for Kira if she isn't able to eventually move past the emotional wounds of fighting in this war. Whether or not, and the running theme for her character through the whole series is whether or not she'll be able to let go of this hatred she has for Cardassia and the Cardassians as a result of the things they've done to Bajor.
Right, like, it's very much, she's kind of like fighting like a little microcosm, just like her war still going. Like, it's easy to say like the material war has stopped, but like internally, like emotionally, this is still happening for her. And she's not really, and you see how quick she is to just jump back into, let's do this. Because it's she says it's all she knows. Yeah.
And so part of the question is she going to end up like the Innis and the Nor Innis, or is she going to find some other solution? And I think the fact that we see that play out is what makes me hopeful that Kai Opaka could come to some sort of resolution between these groups, because that's sort of the story and the theme they end up going with for Kira.
Yeah, like she basically kickstarts whole. I mean, this is in a lot of ways, you don't know, you know it retrospectively. This is like actually the real beginning of like her whole character arc of like calming down and like, I need to move forward with my life and not just be stuck in this. It's a big deal. I would say, for me, I think the episode as a whole is fine. It's not one of the all-time greats. There's still some season one. I think some of the pacing's a little weird in this one. Every time it kind of cuts back to O'Brien and Dax, you're just kind of like, yeah, just kind of figure it out.
Boop-a-doop.
I think for me, the strongest part of this is it's not a Kira episode per se, but she kind of gets like the real character work in this episode. I think all the scenes with her are definitely the best part of this episode. That's what I think. Every time like she had some of those moments, like it actually kind of got me like, oh, like
Yeah.
When Kai just touches her ear,
her ear, and she just
she's like, I see it all, like, and it's okay. It just reveals everything to her on the inside. Oh, that's such a good moment. Beautiful moment.
It just has this like spiritual, like emotional, like breakdown. And even that scene when she's trying to like, you see the character like how defensive she gets, and she's trying to rationalize herself. She's like, no, I promise, like I'm not this violent person. And Opaka's just kind of letting her talk. Yeah. And then she just touches her ear, and you see her just like, oh, she just collapses. Or the scene when Opaka dies and Kira is just in complete shock. You're just like, oh man, she really brings her A game, I feel like, to that part. Nana Visitor. I feel like some of the other characters, it takes a second for them to really find themselves and like their characters. I feel like Nana Visitor from day one with Kira is batting 1,000.
Yeah, she's
Totally.
great.
That's the only way the episode plays. Like if she had not been anything but 1,000%, like it would have fallen short. Right? Like you would have been taken out of the episode.
Yeah, because even if the episode doesn't spend a whole lot of time where we actually see Kira, the episode is kind of about her, right? Like their struggle is her struggle.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's kind of interesting because it's almost exactly what we were talking about in the beginning. Where if TNG had done, I could see TNG was firing on all cylinders at this point. It had been going for 6 seasons and was still going. I could see TNG doing this and the episode just conceptually being stronger and really clean and clear. But here, like it's Kira that really brings it out. It's that character focus that really makes it hit. It's not just this philosophical problem. You see how this one person this violence has embedded themselves into it. And you don't quite get that with TNG. It's more of them kind of talking about it. I can't understand how people would be like this. And Patrick Stewart gives some, well, it's easy, some amazing, incredible speech.
Yeah, they would have had the come to the ceasefire talks, and each one would have been there to fight each other. And then Picard would give a Picard speech. Mm-hmm. And they'd lay down their weapons,
It's 80s slow clap them.
Whoopi Goldberg's like, you need to empathize more with these people, Captain. Perhaps you're right.
Yeah, I mean, Deep Space Nine definitely has this, like, no matter what they do, it's a failure. Cisco does not get them to figure it out. They walk out of there without the Kai, without having ended this conflict. It's a pretty empty, hollow.
We killed the Pope. Basically, we have to go back and
Space
report.
Pope. We're gonna go back. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, but she's technically an immortal Space Pope now, so that's something.
The Bajorans are gonna be furious.
Plus, we get the whole Kai secession crisis, which is gonna turn into a whole deal in this show.
A whole big deal. Yeah, like this is again retrospectively. Not only does this kick off a whole thing with Kira, but in terms of like the long plot arcs that develop over the season, yeah, the fact that there's now a power vacuum for the Kai definitely has huge implications for the show going forward. Speaking of Kira, real quick, I'm curious what you guys think. So in the original version of this story, it wasn't going to be the Null and the Null Ennis. The idea is that they find a colony or a planet with humans and Cardassians who are locked in this perpetual conflict, and they decided to change it just to avoid. They're like, well, you're just gonna root for the humans. Like you're gonna be biased in this, so they changed it to just completely neutral third parties. I don't know. What do you guys think? Would this story have benefited, or could this still have worked if it were like a Cardassian human story, or do you think they made the right choice with the Ennis and the Null Ennis?
I think if they hadn't made that change, this episode wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
Because it would get, as a viewer, we'd get to attached to the question of which of the groups is right. And we're going to say almost certainly that it's the humans because the Cardassians are not friendly
space
people.
Nazis.
Generally, yeah, we'll just go ahead and say it. They're the space Nazis. Whereas it seemed to me like the big theme, the big message of the episode is, regardless of who's right or wrong, you need some way to move on from the conflict. Yeah. At some point, the fighting has to end, and once that's done, you can only do that if you can imagine some way to live without the violence.
Mm. What do you think, Aaron?
I know, I agree with that point.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked at all. If you had humans versus humans, it would have been better. Or
something a little cloudier.
I don't think it even would have worked like Cardassian versus Cardassians. Like, I don't know. You needed
maybe just too much baggage.
Right.
Yeah.
A one-off race like this that we kind of never see again.
Yeah. And actually at this point, we haven't really done a lot with the Gamma Quadrant. So it's kind of a good, we have a wormhole going to who knows where. We should probably use it from time to time.
Explore some things.
This is kind of interesting because Deep Space Nine, this is not the only time they tackle themes of like war and violence. It's the whole show. Oh, yeah. The whole show. And Deep Space Nine usually concerns itself a lot with some of like the political motivations and just kind of like what causes wars to begin with. And it really just examines these things. This might be the closest the show gets to like stripping all that away and just looking at like violence and war kind of in a vacuum.
Right.
In the really early days, this isn't certainly an episode. This might benefit from coming back later after you've watched the show, and now watching this episode probably hits a little different than watching it the first time because, like you said, you didn't even remember it. Very interesting. Speaking really quickly to Kai Opaka, so this is only her second episode, and it's also her last episode. What do you guys think about like her exit coming so quick? They kind of set her up in the first episode as a kind of important major. I mean, she's a very important major character in the first episode, and they kind of set her up like she's going to be like a recurring character, and they lose her in the second episode. What do you guys think? Is this like too soon to lose her, or like, because I think originally they were going to create a whole new character for this episode and then kill that character. And they decided, they wanted to have someone that would hit harder. And they felt like Kai Opaka was probably the one the most expendable recurring character at the point. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this kind of a shame that we lose her too quick? Or is this kind of an interesting little twist for her character?
It's a shame because she is so good in the part. I feel like she has this gravitas. It's like you accept her as the Kai of this planet, absolutely. But at the same time, like the shock factor of losing someone that important who's like set up that well, that's awesome TV. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, even just the fact of her just being, even this was her first episode, just the fact that she is Space Pope. Yeah. And you know how important the religion is to the Bajorans. You're like, oh no, they aren't going to be happy. What do you think, Claire? Is this too soon, or?
I don't think it's really too soon. I feel like Kai Opaka matters because the position of Kai matters in terms of the show. But as a character, I actually don't think she's that interesting.
Sure.
You know, she's nice and she's wise, but there isn't really that much to her. And I think you brought this up earlier. Sort of knocking her out of the show opens up the possibility for all of these more interesting things to happen. And I can't imagine what they could have possibly done with the Kai Opaka character that would have been made for as good of TV as that was.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, it might have been nice to maybe get like at least one more episode, because then this would even hit harder. And you can imagine them finding another good storyline for her. But I think you're right. I think it's kind of like diminishing returns. What do you think? Are we hopeful that Kaiopaka, especially tying this in with our question from earlier, is war inescapable? In terms of like Kira's personal arc, it definitely seems to imply that on a personal level, no. Like, you can break free from this. Do you think Kaiopaka has what it takes to bring that conflict to an end?
I think so.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's one of those things where we don't have enough evidence to really make a solid prediction that way. So we kind of just have to go based off of the themes of the show and the characters and how that's developed. And I think if there's hope for Kira, then that seems to be the message of Deep Space Nine as a whole. So there kind of has to be at least hope for the Innis and the Nor-Innis.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good point. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I do like Deep Space Nine oftentimes over TNG is, sometimes TNG ends on these kind of like question mark notes. Deep Space Nine does it like all the time though. It's like, and it leaves a lot for you as the viewer to kind of wrestle with. And I think there is hope, especially with Kira, but the fact that you just have no idea what's going to happen here is probably a more realistic thing to leave with the audience. It's like, can we end the war? Maybe, don't know. Like, but you see the hope with like Kira that's like, but maybe, but that's up to you as the audience to decide. I hope.
And so maybe whether we think that, Kaiopaka can help build toward a peace with the Innis and the Nor-Innis is less about, what's going to happen with the Innis and the Nor-Innis, but just what we as an audience think about whether or not we can escape conflict.
Speaking, just before we start to wrap it up, speaking a bit more, speaking more generally to the show, a little outside of the episode, because like we had talked about, like, season 1 isn't your favorite. In terms of just how we feel of this as a barometer for the show, like, what do we think? What works? What is working? And maybe what do we feel like isn't quite working yet with the show, if anything? Or maybe it's all perfect.
This episode didn't feel any, particularly out of sync with any Star Trek episode I've ever seen. It kind of felt like all the gears were running smoothly. It's early days, so you're still getting to know a lot of the characters. Maybe that's it, but I just felt like it was a fine episode of Star Trek. It wasn't an all-time great, but
I think it shows that right from the beginning it has an idea of what its themes are, what it wants to say. But it's more the individual characters they haven't worked out. Like, I definitely get the feeling they have no idea who Miles O'Brien is supposed to be yet. He's just there saying things,
Differential magnetomer.
Yeah, he's got the differential magnetomer or whatever.
all right, he's the whiz guy.
But in terms of, could this episode have been done by other Star Trek shows? I think other Star Trek shows of the era could do something like this episode. I think even back in TOS, they basically did something like that episode, and the one where Kirk cites the Constitution to the aliens. I haven't seen it, but that's my impression of what happened.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Kirk was reading the Constitution.
He was reading the Constitution. He was telling them, to not fight each other. Yeah. But I think what lets Deep Space Nine do this episode, like, take the same theme but do it in a way that's unique to Deep Space Nine, is its ability to use this episode to set up a theme and then pay it off and continue exploring it later because it's more serialized, where with some of those other shows you can give it more of a punchy, here's the moral kind of ending.
Yeah, that's also a good point, because I feel like TNG especially really started to nail down how to just, there you go. Yeah. And then,
and drumhead, you just have to say drumhead, and everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. Claire, any final thoughts on battle lines?
I just think it was really good. I think I was able to say most of what I had to say about it.
All right, now you can go back and say, season 1 isn't that bad.
Yeah, maybe season 1 was actually good.
It's just those bad ones that put a sour taste in your mouth, I feel like.
I'm actually
the board game episode.
Oh, yeah, that's what you think of. Move along.
Look, Profit and Lace wasn't even a season 1 episode, so it's not like season 1 has the worst episode.
No. Aaron, any final thoughts on Battle Lines?
Good Star Trek episode. Can't say shout out to Patrick Stewart anymore.
No, shout out to Avery Brooks.
Or Nana
Kieran
Visitor.
Reese
Shout out to Nana.
for hell of a performance.
I think my final thoughts would also be similar in this, that like, if we didn't have Nana Visitor and Kira in this episode, I think that would definitely take it down a pretty noticeable peg. So I think this is definitely a case where a performer really elevates the episode. So yes, shout out to you, Nana Visitor.
We're probably going to be saying that a lot.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks for coming on, Claire, and watching Battle Lines.
Yes, thank you very much.
With us. Very fun.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll definitely have to have you on again. We still have so much. We got Deep Space, we got a little more Next Gen, we got Voyager, we got Enterprise, we got modern Star Trek still coming down the road. So there's still more to watch. So
touch modern Trek. Oh my gosh.
And we're still a ways away. So we'll have to have you on again. Super fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to our coverage of Battle Lines. If you didn't like the episode, hopefully you liked our coverage of the episode. Next week, we're going to be starting another twofer. We just recently finished our little Q-fer, and we're going to be doing another character-centric twofer. It's going to be very appropriate. This time around, we're going to be doing a Kira twofer.
Great.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little bit in this episode. Kira is probably one of the more, if not the most fleshed out character in the first season of Deep Space Nine. I think part of it is just because she kind of embodies at least the initial conceit of the show, where, Next Generation TOS, it was like go to planet, solve the problem, warp off into the sunset, where Deep Space Nine is like they go to Bajor and just have to sit there and help Bajor recover. And so her character is kind of emblematic of that long-term, we're sticking with this one alien species, we're going to help them out. So it kind of makes sense that she's the most fleshed out in the beginning. And she's also Star Trek's first real non-Starfleet main character. They hadn't really done that before. So yeah, starting next week, we're going to be doing a little 2-episode look at Major Kira. We're going to be starting with Progress for next week. And we'll be having a new friend on to watch that one with us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Claire, once again, thank you. Aaron, as always, thank you.
Jaron, Claire.
And we will see you all next time. Hopefully, not on a planet of perpetual war where you are endlessly slaughtering each other.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to share us your own Star Trek story, you can email us at storiedstartrek@gmail.com, or you can visit our Discord server. You can find us by clicking on the link in the show description.